Welcome to the Therapeutic Food Solutions podcast. I'm your host, Mary Mitchell. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach, therapeutic diet expert, and founder of The Road to Living Whole. There are many different diets out there. It's hard to know which one is right for you with your chronic illness and autoimmune disease. In this podcast, I'm going to share with you the foundational pieces every single therapeutic diet out there shares, and also how to use the best one for your particular diagnosis. If you've been looking for a meal planning partner, help navigating the complicated healthcare system, and want to feel better quickly, I'm your girl. Grab your kombucha and notebook. Let's dive in. Joining me today is John Gusty. He is a man who is passionate about helping you own your health by giving you the tools you need to navigate your way through today's modern medical and food systems. I have to tell you, I'm a huge fan of his mission and his passion for it. I'm excited to introduce you to him and all that he has to share with us today. John, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. I'm so excited to have you on and to just have this conversation with you. Can you introduce yourself and tell us, your story?
All right. Well, my name is John Gusty, and amongst other things, I am one of 5 authors of this book here, The Red Pill Revolution, which not here to really hawk that book, but to give you some references to my story. Like I said, I'm one of 5 authors, and one of the other 5 is a gentleman by the name of Dr. Jeremy Ayers, and he happens to be my wife's doctor, and he's based in the UK. I am not. I am just west of Nashville, Tennessee, but we have just a very, very intense personal relationship that was founded in getting my wife better. My wife, Dawn, of 20 plus years, she was originally diagnosed with what they said was multiple sclerosis. And I say she was originally diagnosed because that was 20 plus years ago, and we've since learned a lot in that journey. And I've got a lot to say about that particular diagnosis and maybe diagnosis as a whole. I think that's a whole topic that could be discussed. But long story short, I'm a lifelong child and product of the entertainment industry, been in the music industry my entire life. I lied my way into my first job at 14, working at a record store in Tempe, Arizona. And all I ever wanted to do was play in bands, make music, ride skateboards, and be around records. And I kind of did that, took it. I jokingly say I'm always a bridesmaid, never the bride of rock and roll, because about every single one of my dear and close friends has gone on to become international superstars. And I would come off like an absolute jerk if I started dropping some names, but needless to say, I've seen it happen to some really, really very real people that went from nothing to something overnight. Later in life, when wife and kids got into the picture, I stopped trying to be a rock star and started working for them. I've always been a content creator, so I very quickly, early on, I was making websites and producing audio and video. I'm a writer at heart, so I can, I can write. So I kind of like, when I went into the industry side of the music business, I was very it wasn't hard to find work. I made myself very useful very quickly, and helped some friends start some record labels, and I've literally worked at every aspect of the entertainment industry, music industry in particular, from start to finish. And I have it was later in life when I saw the corporate side of the music industry, the higher echelons. Like I said, I'm based outside of Nashville, and so a lot of the music infrastructure is here. We've got the Grammys and all the labels and distribution and management companies. I was interfacing with some pretty big brands, some pretty big names. And when you see behind the curtain and you see how orchestrated and scripted and, quite frankly, manipulated for profit's sake all of that is, it just took a lot of the magic away from, as an unsuspecting little kid, I'd look up and see these people up on stage, and that's all I wanted to do. But then you get older and you get to see how that works, and you see how scripted and manipulated that it is. It's show business. And I guess at the end of the day, although it took the wind out of my sails, it's show business, and it made sense to me. So flash forward, now I've got my dear wife, who's going through, when I met her, she was walking with a cane. She hasn't been able to take a step on her own in about 14 years. She's been confined to an electric scooter. So I've watched the the progression of her situation. And in an attempt to dive in and get her better, or at least understand what was happening, because I've been a pretty healthy person my entire life. Never was in a hospital, I've always ate, and my consumption has always been on the healthy side. So I've just never really interfaced with the medical industrial complex much. But that changed, and very, very quickly, it took maybe less than a year of just, I'm kind of a get in there and get your hands dirty kind of a person. So I'll get on the phone, or I'll go to an office, and I'll just start having conversations to find out what I need to find out. And very quickly, I realized that the medical industrial complex is just as scripted and just as manipulated and just as profit driven than actually even more so than the entertainment industry. And to me, it was even more. There's a really dark side to it, because at least the entertainment industry, at least we all know that content is for entertainment purposes only. And so, you're expecting to be manipulated and told stories to, and hooked into storylines and stuff like that, and being marketed to. But when you're talking about people's lives and their health and their wellness, it just takes on a whole different level of darkness. And so I quickly realized that there were no answers to be found within the medical industrial complex. I liken it to, like if your goal is to eat well and learn about nutrition and consume healthy foods, you're probably not going to turn to the fast food industry. Same analogy. If you're wanting to get well, or if you're looking for solutions to your health and wellness issues, I don't think you turn to the medical industrial complex. They're kind of like the fast food industry of health and wellness. So that just started a whole life of exploration. And Dr. Jeremy Ayers, who I co-wrote the book with, along with 3 other really awesome people from the UK, we just went on this journey. The whole idea was to put together a field guide for people who could I think we all kind of know something's up, like we all know that. I mean, I've never spent a day on earth we live in this meme of like corporations are dishonest and manipulative, and politicians are dishonest and manipulative. And we all know this. And so like, how do you navigate through all of that stuff? And Jeremy and I are pretty good talkers and thinkers, and we said, hey, let's write this field guide for people who are trying to get healthy. Because if you're trying to get healthy, it's about everything. It's not just about, it's not just about medicine or therapy. It's about everything. It's about food. It's about your mental state. It's about your spiritual state. It's about light. It's about water. It's about contact with the earth. It's about electricity and energy and all that stuff. And how do you, if everything we're being told is, at the very least manipulated, and in some cases wrong, and in some cases flat out false intentionally, then how do you navigate through that? So we started writing this book in the fourth quarter of 2019, and we all know what happened next. And so we were literally finishing that book through all of 2020, and I think it was a blessing in disguise, because those of us who have had their eyes opened for, and I don't mean eyes open in a wake or woke kind of way. I just mean those of us who are, I don't know,
aware of the
just aware of the manipulation. Yeah. Like I never did trust people with white coats and letters after their name any more than I expected someone with a McDonald's uniform on to guide me in the right direction for food. It's kind of like, I'm not downing people who work at McDonald's, and I'm not downing people who have white coats with letters after their name. They do what they do, but that's not where I knew I was going to find my answers and the guidance and the knowledge I was looking for. So we wrote this book through the shenanigans of 2020. And since doing that, it's just opened up a whole world of, I think everyone, whether they know it or not, everyone knows something's wrong or up. And there's so many more people today trying to get themselves better and healthier than there's ever been before. And there's just a lot of people want to do it. It's just, how do you do it? And there's so much misinformation out there. And we just wanted to be kind of a field guide through, I'm not saying that we're right or we're wrong, but it's more like teaching someone how to shop, or teaching someone how to avoid, a lot of times it's more valuable to tell people what not to do, or what to avoid, because we all learn things the best by it actually happening to us. Like when real life experience, when we see something work or when we feel something work, then you don't need to be taught anymore. You know it, and then you can move on, and now your knowledge level kicks up a notch. And so I think my whole thing is just trying to, I love sharing knowledge, and I'm not saying that I know everything, but I know what I know, and I know what has worked for me, and I know what hasn't worked for me. And I know the conversations that I've had that have been many. We've been all over the world talking to people with white coats and letters after their name, and also talking to a lot of people who don't have white coats and letters after their name. And I'll be honest with you, the true knowledge and the stuff that really seems to resonate and really seems to work doesn't come from that fast food, medical, industrial complex sourcing at all. Much different. And so, yeah, that's kind of my story is I like to find things out. I like to see things work. And I love conversation, and I love just sharing my knowledge, which I said isn't be all end all, but I know what I know. And we've had some pretty interesting, adventures through this crazy world, and we're all learning our way forward, and I just want to be a part of that. We can help one or two other people, then mission accomplished.
I absolutely resonate with your story. It's in the chronic illness world, as you know, you do go from doctor to doctor to doctor, and they don't believe you, and you get dismissed, and you feel crazy, and they give you all these different medications that don't work, and you feel worse. And eventually you get to this point where you're like, okay, I have to go outside of this and figure out what's going on. And it's just kind of the progression. And I remember when it felt like the veil was lifted, and I was like, this isn't going to help me. If I'm in a car accident, great. Sew me, put the bones back, sew me up,
From a
but
mechanical standpoint, yeah,
yes,
that industry, for mechanics, but but you also wouldn't, you wouldn't go to your mechanic to, teach you how to make a salad or even
exactly.
whether you should be eating salad. I mean, what I mean? Like a mechanic knows things from a mechanical standpoint. I think that the one thing that industry can do is offer some mechanical assistance. But so not to put, there's good surgeons out there that know the structure and can fix things, but that's their purpose. They're not there to make things better.
I can think of a few doctors that, have the letters after their name, but they practice what they do at home is the holistic world. And they didn't come to that conclusion in med school. They came to it by talking to people. It is kind of, I feel like in the beginning, you feel like really shocked and angry, right? Like I've been hoodwinked. Like I've been
Well, it's
lied
like,
to
what
this
it's
whole
like.
time.
It's like we've all been, I think we've all been in relationships, like personal relationships where the other person has hurt you, and deceived you. And it's like you've been cheated on, it's like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I was like, and you feel invaded, and you feel just taken advantage of. And there is an anger there. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who can't get past that. That's how you get that. I don't know. I think those are the people that are still on Facebook. Yeah. So,
You touched on something in your story that I want to expand on, and that's your perspective on diagnosis and putting
yeah,
labels on things. I would love to explore that because, people get stuck there and they
yeah.
live there and they don't feel like there's any way to escape that. And while I think diagnosis can be helpful in certain ways in validating your experience that you've had, it becomes almost a crutch, and it almost is like a ball and chain that holds you back. So I really want to hear your perspective on that and what you think
Well,
about that.
the whole topic of diagnosis, I think, is it's vague, and there's an incredible amount of trust involved there. I'll give you, I'm full of dumb analogies, so I apologize in advance. But like, let's just say that okay, let's say you're a homeowner, and you notice something's up with one of the walls in your house, and you notice some there's obviously some structural damage happening, right? So you call me, and I'm the white coat guy with the letters after his name, right? I'm going to come in and I'm going to diagnose what's wrong with your house. And so I come and I give you this diagnosis that you've got. I'll make up some stupid name for, insert disease names here. Like you have Walmatitis. And the way that you're going to fix your Walmatitis is I'm going to give you some things that you're going to rub on your wall, and you need to come back and see me every 6 months. And I'm going to have to come see you every 6 months. And we're going to, maybe I'll inject some things into your wall, and I'll do all these things. And you're trusting that Walmatitis is even a thing, right? Now, someone else could come in to your situation and go, look at your wall and go, you know what? Get out a saw, cut open a little thing. Go, you have termites. You don't have Walmatitis. You have termites. And here's how we're going to fix the termites. And they go in there and fix the issue. And you could probably get rid of the termites in a relatively short amount of time, because you are now dealing with a very specific problem that is the actual problem, and you'll deal with the termites and then your wall will be fine. Whereas like if you go with the Walmatitis, you could be dealing with me for years, and I'd be rubbing stuff on your walls and shooting things into your walls and, and putting you through wall therapy, and your walls never, the whole time there's termites back there and you need to deal with the termites, but you've never been told that there was termites because you're dealing with me, a guy with letters after my name. And I'm telling you that your situation is something that is, I'm not going to say made up, but I think that the medical industrial complex they make up conditions, they make up diagnosis so that, let's be honest, they only have 3 tools in their toolbox. They're either going to cut you through surgery, they're going to burn you through radiation, or they're going to drug you through pharmaceuticals. I've yet to be in a medical situation where the path forward didn't involve surgery, drugs, or radiation. And what if you just have termites? You know what I mean? You don't need to be cut. You don't need to be drugged. You don't need to have radiation. You need to deal with your termites. And so the whole topic of diagnosis, you're trusting that the diagnosis that you're being given is even a thing to begin with. And look at like these vague buckets. My wife got told that she had multiple sclerosis, and we've bumped up against that. Anybody that's gone the MS route bumps up against people with Lyme's disease. And it's my opinion. This is just me saying this, but I think when the medical industrial complex throws people into the Lyme's disease or MS diagnosis buckets, that's them saying, we don't know what's going on. And so we're here, go in there, because those two, we've met so many people over the years that have been diagnosed with one of those 2 things, and no two are ever the same. No two people are ever experiencing the same things. Or it's all over. A lot of times it's just super, super chronic inflammation from being caused by something. And again, my stupid termite analogy, it's like, find the cause of the inflammation, locate the inflammation, find the cause of the inflammation, and you've dealt with your termites. But rarely at least in my opinion and my experience, rarely in the diagnosis, once you've been diagnosed with something and then you go forward with the templated protocol or with whatever the next steps are, it rarely involves getting to the root of the problem. It's usually some sort of maintenance with pharmaceuticals or maintenance with, surgery or some sort of physical therapy type thing. Like it's not, they don't ever get in there, find the termites, kill the termites, and get on with things, and so I just think that the whole world of the word diagnosis needs to be, I wish more people understood how loose some of these diagnoses or diagnosi. What is I don't know, whatever the correct plural term for that word is. I wish people knew how, like, a lot of times these things are, as silly as my Walmatitis, example. If you get down to, like, if you really, I will ask questions. If I had $1 for every time I had a doctor pull me aside and go out into the hallway and turn around and go, John, I know, I can't, I've got a mortgage, I've got, two kids in college. I can't stop. I mean, like I've pushed a few to the point of like they're, a lot of those, I mean, to sound weird, but a lot of medical professionals are in offices and office buildings where they're constantly on camera, and they can't even these days, they can't even get caught like saying something that could be construed as being off the narrative. Like they have their templates and their narratives, and they got to stay on them. And I've had more than one doctor tell me, in private, looking around all nervous, like, I know, but I can't. If I go down that path, if I engage you in this conversation, then I put myself at risk, professionally. I'll respect. It's never been my goal to get anybody fired, but I don't think enough. I think there's so much blind trust in those individuals that most people don't even know that they have the ability to question these things. Another thing I will say too is, in those scenarios, and I come from the entertainment industry, I've seen ego at its best. I have never seen ego the way that I've seen it in the medical. I mean, like, I've actually been in the same room as Kanye West. I know ego. I've seen it firsthand on many occasions, but even Kanye West's ego doesn't compare to some doctors and some medical professionals. I mean, there really is almost a God complex with some of these individuals, and God forbid you ask questions or question their diagnosis. I've just seen my fair share of just BS diagnosis, and so I would hope that more and more people feel empowered to if you're going to listen to those people, take them to task. They're not working on your car, they're working on your body, and your life could very well be drastically affected by a wrong decision. Just like a crappy mechanic could really screw up your car, a crappy diagnosis could really screw you up. And I think we've both seen, I mean, my goodness, I could talk for hours on really, really bad medical advice that people have been given, and it ends up making them worse.
Definitely. I love the way you explain the diagnosis because it's literally just naming a set of symptoms.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and it's guiding pharmaceutical treatment. In the naturopathic or, holistic world, we look at them as like, yes, like we see your body's attacking the nervous system and the myelin sheaths. And it's like, why? Is
Mhm.
that we're the ones that are going in and looking for the termites, right? And we know that there's sets of things, even no matter what the diagnosis is, maybe pharmaceuticals will come in for a short time to maybe get things under control, but it's a temporary treatment for the long-term lifestyle, right? And so I know that, before we went live, you shared, and when you were talking about your book, you talked about all these categories of things that come into play when you want to be healthy, like truly healthy, not dependent on being at the mercy of somebody in a white coat, but to like really empower yourself with taking on your health. And so let's dive into those a little bit. And maybe we can talk about your favorite topic because I think it's super interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's regardless of whatever ideological team we all might play on or identify with, or what our religious or spiritual beliefs are. I think everyone can agree that we are like, absolutely, as humans, we are bioelectric creatures. And it's not, I mean, you could argue that like most life is bioelectric, not just humans, but I mean, we are composed with an awful lot of water. There's an awful lot of energy, electrical energy running through us at all times. We are attracting, unless you live at the top of a mountain around nobody else, we are all baking in radiation. I'm surprised almost on a daily basis that when I say something like that, there's always somebody in the room that goes, "What?" Anything that has electricity running through it radiates. Anything. And so there's every wall in every building, every ceiling in every building, every floor in every building has wires running through them. So every wall, ceiling, and floor is radiating. And if you're in a room, you've got radiation on all four sides of you, above and below you. And so we're mostly water, so we're attracting a lot of that radiation and holding it. You have to discharge at some point, and the only way that I'm aware of to discharge is to actually make contact with the ground. That's why they call it grounding,
And
and
we're
that's
talking
why,
like grass and dirt and things, not like
like
carpet and
actual ground,
tile. Yeah.
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 Stepping out onto your 14th floor balcony of your apartment is not, you're not grounded. And I think that makes me think of something, because I was just talking to a dear friend about this. I'm a huge dog lover, but I also have a cat as well. My wife makes fun of me for having a cat, but I took this cat in, and it's a little heart project.
It adopted you.
It kind of said, hey, human, you're mine. And but I am fortunate that we live in a pretty rural area, and my dogs and cat can go outside whenever they want, and they spend a lot of time outside. They drink real water, real living water, not water out of a pipe that comes, piped in somewhere with God knows what in it. Imagine, it shouldn't be hard for too many people to wrap their head around the fact that, imagine how many, just let's pick house cats. How many house cats have lived their entire lives, never touched the ground because they live in an apartment somewhere. They've never actually been exposed to real sunlight because we've been told our whole life that UV light is bad for us. And so all glass has got UV coating on it. So they've never had any real sunlight. They've never had any real water, because all the water that they've ever drank has come out of a tap, or at best, maybe some bottled water that they got from Whole Foods, which is not much better. So just think about how many domesticated animals have never touched the ground, been exposed to real sunlight, had real water. And the big thing is most dogs and cats in their natural environment would be eating meat. And most domesticated animals are actually fed really crappy grains, like mostly corn. And I don't know, in a natural setting, when a cat or a dog would ever eat corn. I just don't know that. I can't see that happening. They'd probably be eating birds and rabbits and each other if need be, but they're not going to be eating corn. So again, most people can wrap their heads around the fact that it's, cat. There's a huge majority of house cats have lived really and these cats are pumped full of God knows what every time their owners take them to the vets, and they pump them full of these shots that they need every year. And so you've got this really, really unhealthy animal that's never had any true natural interaction on any level, light, water, food, anything. And it's got just everything that it's taken in and been injected with is all toxic. And people wonder why their cats only live 10 years, And I think if you transfer what I just said to the human experience, there's a lot of humans who, like, if they live inside or they work inside, they never go outside, they're never getting any natural light. It blows my mind. Water is probably my most passionate topic. It blows my mind how there's so many people, even people that fancy themselves as leading healthy lifestyles, that just don't have real natural living water in their regimen at all. They don't even think about it. I don't know why water isn't more of a topic. It's almost like it's intentionally ignored, and we are mostly water. You'd never walk up. Nobody in their right mind would ever walk up to a fish tank and pour a soda, even if it's a $5 Whole Foods all natural soda. You'd never pour it into a fish tank. Why? Because it would kill the fish. But we also don't think twice about pouring it into our own fish tank. We are, in all intents and purposes, walking fish tanks. Everything from the gut flora. The gut flora might be one of the most intense, like, aquatic life, environments ever, and it's like we should be treating our guts like, I don't know if you've ever known anybody that has, thousands of dollars poured into an aquarium with all the coral and the lights and all, but we should be treating our guts like the way that those people treat those aquariums. It's like, you know, in one hand, it's just an expensive aquarium that someone's dumped a lot of money into. You transfer that over to your gut, man. That's like, I mean, everything starts with the gut. If you don't have a healthy gut, you're not going to have everything else that you're doing is going to be for naught. I mean, you got to, so it's just, we in general, I don't think enough of us take into account the whole well-roundedness of like what it means to be healthy. You've got to have good light, you've got to have good water, you've got to have real food, like actual real food. Nachos from Taco Bell's not real food. In fact, really funny comedian I love very much made the point that like Taco Bell doesn't even have the word food on the menu. It never appears anywhere in any Taco Bell like verbiage at all. There's real light, real water, real food. And again, we are walking water bags. We are collecting electrical charge all day long. You have to discharge at some point. And the only way to do that is to actually touch the ground. I think that's why most people, like when they go to the ocean or on the beach, everyone feels so much better when they put their feet in the water. And that's something that some people do like maybe like once a year.
Or
Like
less.
once a year. And that's like that. And it blows my mind. It's like, man, if we were in our natural setting, behaving as we naturally would, we would be barefoot in the sunlight, consuming super healthy water that we got ourselves, and we would be eating actual real living food, whether it's animal based or plant based. I mean, the plants, the animals eat the plants, so it's all
Oh, it's all plant-based.
yeah, everything is plant based, which is an interesting argument to have with vegans. No disrespect to vegans out there, but anyways, so yeah, it's. I think when people start to take their health and wellness seriously, they focus just on food.
Mhm.
And that's great. I mean, it's really
It's a start.
it's a
It's a
piece
start.
of the puzzle, but
Yeah.
you could be eating the best stuff if you're missing the water, if you're missing the light, if you're missing the grounding. The biggest thing is just stress. Like stress is so inflammatory. I mean, lots of things are inflammatory, but stress is hugely inflammatory. And so you just got to we've heard it said a bunch of different ways, mind, body, spirit. I think there's a few more categories there, but I mean, light, water, ground, spirit.
Relationships,
Yeah,
sleep.
it all
Yeah.
ties to, yes, sleep. That's another thing too. I mean, look at how many. One of the major pieces of the puzzle for me years and years ago, when it fell into place, changed my life, was just learning about the circadian rhythm and living my day by the light. And when you get your body living that way, when you get up with the sun and when the sun goes down, you don't I'm sorry, I don't keep going off at these little side tangents, but like the natural light cycle is so important. And when the sun goes down, the body naturally is shutting down and getting ready for the next phase of its day, which is sleep. But then we go, and a lot of us will go, and after the sun is down, we'll sit in front of computer screens or TV screens or phone screens that are emitting blue light. And for those that don't know, blue light it's naturally emitted during the day when the sun is above us, and that's telling us, it's triggering the body to, depending upon what direction you're going, to stop making melatonin or start making melatonin so that the body can sleep. And it's like, if it's 12:30 at night and you're sitting in front of a TV screen bathing in blue light, your body thinks it's noon, and it's not going to shut down, and you're going to have trouble sleeping. And it blows me away how many people have gone the route of pharmaceuticals, especially to get sleep, when if people just tried I mean, I know some people live in some metropolitan situations, but if you can sleep in complete darkness, and I mean complete darkness, like even a little LED light on your router is enough to, your skin can pick up those photons. And it's like, if you can sleep in complete darkness, most people will go to sleep. I mean, we have people that come out here, and we have a little guest cabin out back, and when the sun goes down out here, it's dark. We don't have any city lights or anything like that. And every single person that has ever stayed with us goes, I had such a good night's sleep. And it's like, yeah, because you're sleeping in darkness. And you're also not bathing in, electromagnetic frequencies and radiation that, because you're bathing in trees and, forest. And again, not to sound hippie or new agey about it, but I mean, there's a lot of we are constantly just bathed in radiation, and you have to discharge and you got to get away from it. And at best try to diffuse it if at all possible. And
Yeah. Yeah. You've talked about so much. This is like such a rich conversation. I want to talk more about water. You keep
yeah,
talking about living water. So I think one of the reasons why people maybe minimize or avoid that topic is because it feels so overwhelming to tackle. Like, I live in a city, I have bills to pay. I can't just go and collect my own rainwater. I live in Phoenix. So there's not a whole lot. I mean, there is this winter, which is crazy and awesome. I can't wait to go, out in the lakes and the rivers and stuff this summer. But it's like, I think people avoid that topic because they feel so helpless. Like, they don't know what their options are. They don't know where to even begin. And it feels like nothing's ever good enough. So it's like, well, I'll just worry about the things I can control. I can eat real food. I can work on my stress. I can do all these things. So let's talk about water, because
yeah.
I know you're super passionate about it and you have a lot of information. So
Well, just a little bit of common ground there. I grew up in Tempe. Yeah.
when you said that, I was like,
Yeah,
hey.
yeah. So I definitely know that the challenge of living in a place where natural water is not exactly a commodity that can be had at any time. But yeah, so water, I don't. Water is such a huge subject because it is. First of all, I mean, water is life. I mean, water holds light. It is life giving. And so, if anyone is familiar with the work, do you know Emoto and all of the work that he did?
Yes.
I mean, literally like exposing water molecules to different types of
Hmm.
sound. Like intense rock music versus really soothing classical music, and you can see the the water molecules change in accordance to the frequencies. And there's another really, I think it illustrates this point beautifully. It's called the Chladni plate, Chladni, Chladni. If you look it up on whatever video hosting service you prefer, it's a speaker facing upwards with a metal plate, and they'll put sand or salt or whatever granular thing, and then they'll run it through a tone generator, different frequencies, and you can see the grains of sand will arrange in geometric patterns based on the frequencies, and the higher the frequencies, the more intricate the patterns get. And so it's been proven every which way that water and the molecular structure of it is affected by frequency. So, and also water can take on things. We can get into ions and positive ions and negative ions, and the attraction, kind of like magnets. And so water like can carry a lot of things and hold a lot of things. And if water in its natural habitat is allowed to do what it does, water always meanders. It always is moving. Even if you watch a drop of water drip down, a pane of glass, it's doing this. It's not just going straight. It might look like it's going straight, but if you look at it real close, or if you film it,
And
it's going back and
zigzagging.
forth.
Yeah.
That's why you never see a straight river. I mean, rivers always go like this. They always meander right to left, right to left. And they're doing that because water naturally wants to vortex it, and it's moving. Water is alive until it's not, and what kills water is the lack of its ability to move. Water doesn't. This gets into a bit of like sacred geometry and stuff, but water does not naturally move in like 90-degree angles. Like you never see water do that. And if most piping is all 90-degree angles or straight lines, and those are two things water never moves in a straight line. It never moves, doesn't make 90-degree turns. And so at the very least, water coming out of any tap no matter what size filter or however great you think your filtration system is, the water that is coming out is dead. It's dead water. It hasn't. Water also holds light, and it holds sunlight differently than moonlight. I mean, there's Victor Schauberger, huge hero of mine, turn of the century physicist, Austrian physicist, I believe. Like, he was the one that really invented the log plume, and the logs would float better at night under the moonlight. They would raise and be able to float, and you could move more logs at night than you could during the day, when the sunlight would actually, the water would get heated up, and they wouldn't float as much. So water is really malleable. It holds things. It needs to move. And most of the water that modern day humans consume is dead water, and it's dead water that's got a bunch of toxins in it. I actually have, like I mentioned, I live west of Nashville in a very rural area. All the water I drink comes out of my ground, and I distill it. And for those that don't understand distillation, it's simply just, we live in a distillation unit, actually. Earth is a distillation unit. The water goes up, condenses, and comes back down, and that's all. But when it, in a distillation unit, you're separating the water from anything else that's in there. It's the solids. And this jar right here, I don't know if you can see the layers of crap. That's all solid. Like, look at that. That's like,
yeah, it looks like bacon. It looks like bacon grease.
This is what it, but it's rock hard. I mean, this is like, you could cut yourself on the inside of that. That's rock hard. This probably is, I think the last time I weighed this, it was over 3 pounds. This is 3 pounds of solids that I've pulled out of about 50 gallons of water.
That's disgusting.
This is, you know what this is? This is all of the stones that I'm not going to have. This is where your stones are coming from, people. Is coming from the non-dissolved solids in the water, and the only way you can get that out is through distillation. Filtration takes a lot of stuff out, but it doesn't remove all the non-dissolved solids. And this is coming out. This garbage right here is coming out. Again, I live in a rural area. If I showed you what water coming from like a metropolitan water source, like, this is, at least, you've got browns and yellows and stuff. I've got some from metropolitan areas where you've got purples, and I mean, it's just like so much, because there's like pharmaceuticals and dyes and inks and just plastics and all this stuff that's in there, oils and things that shouldn't be in the water. And when it's passing through the human body, it's getting, some of that stuff is getting snagged along the way. It's not coming out, it's building up. And again, that's where stones and clogged arteries and things are coming from, is the poor condition of the water that most people drink. And even those that really are trying to live a healthy existence. I've seen so many people who are, really making an honest effort to do things healthier. They're still drinking bottled water, and it's like, and they don't understand that, like, the plastic that bottle, that water is in, the water is leaching, toxins from that plastic. And, I think a lot of people would be floored if they saw the lack of what actually legally passes for spring water. I mean, it could just be, I mean, honestly,
you could go down a rabbit hole. Like, you could be researching
Nestle, #Coke, like those companies and their spring water, and it's just garden hose water. It's just coming out of that's what qualifies for spring. And and so most people don't even allow themselves to be hydrated properly with good, living, healthy water that doesn't contain any non-dissolved solid. When you do that, when you allow, another interesting thing for those that might be thinking that this might be a challenge, next time you're in your grocery store, take a look at what a gallon of, now granted it is in a plastic container, but take a look at what a gallon of distilled water cost versus like even the cheapest soda. It's like, it's still way cheaper. It's like, it's the cheapest medicine, in my opinion, that one could inflict upon themselves. And I joke that, water is kind of if you drink distilled water, it acts as like a crap magnet because it's the non-dissolved solids inside of you have an opposite ionic charge than the distilled water. And so this water is going through, it's passing through your body. It's naturally attracting the non-dissolved solids like a magnet would. And it's either exiting you through your sweat or your urine. And I mean, you're literally, it's almost like a liquid vacuum cleaner. You can just like clean yourself up just by drinking the distilled
Yeah.
water. And there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a big argument out there about, it's what leaches minerals from yeah, that's the point. What that is that's a good example of a half truth. It's like, yeah, it does. The other side of that is you need it to leach those non-dissolved, because just because something's organic doesn't mean that it's good for you. Gasoline is organic, but you're not going to pour yourself a big glass of gasoline. Well, there's a lot of organic non-dissolved solids in you that are, they need to get out of there, and so distilled water will attract those and move things along. But no, water is such a huge aspect of just, I can't emphasize enough, you got to get your water right. Just think of yourself as a fish tank, before you work on the plants and all the ornamentation. Your fish tank is going to suffer if you don't have good water in there.
Yeah. Thank you so much for diving into that. And it really is a rabbit hole. You start researching, and it's another one of those things where you feel betrayed, right? Like you've been lied to your entire life, and and then you kind of feel overwhelmed. But if you have a place to start, that's where you start. And you
Yeah.
do start feeling better very quickly. It's quite amazing what happens. And then even if you can't there's like good, better, best. Like obviously sometimes it takes time to get everything in place, right? So you don't want to feel disheartened and like you're just failing this entire time. But it's like if you can get the shower head filters and even if you're just drinking the distilled water and then maybe, you just kind of start, using filtered water for other things. And then you kind of start getting finances in place and you can start doing other things, right? And just kind of like keep getting better. Like it's a start. It's always a start
Yeah.
to start cleaning things up. You don't have to be perfect to get from the get-go, but the goal is there.
Yeah. And I would say, while you're in the process of cleaning things up, whether it's water, whether it's food, whether it's things you're putting on whatever it is that you are exposing your body to, putting in or on your body, 9 times out of 10, if you just ask yourself the simple question, is this thing that I'm consuming or putting on or in me, is it from a corporate source, or is it from an actual like independent natural source? 9 times out of 10, if you find yourself at that crossroads, you just go the natural independent route, because we could talk forever about the corporate stuff, but corporate anything's only goal is to be profitable. That's all. Look at any corporate charter. The number one objective is to stay profitable, and so you can't, like, I couldn't even have an honest relationship with you if the motive for our relationship was profit. It wouldn't be an honest relationship,
Right.
because it would be profit driven. And so taking natural sources and independent sources of anything, whether it's water, food, light, whatever, you're almost always going to be going in a cleaner direction, certainly. And there are so many people I think the blessing that we all have right now, living in the times that we live in, is there are so many people doing so much good work. You just pick a vertical, pick a direction, and there's people doing good work, and you can, it'll resonate with you, the people who are doing it for the right reasons. If someone's trying to sell you something, again, that's a profit motive, but you can tell the people who just want to share. They just want to share knowledge, and they just want there's just two different directions. And I think if people start looking at things that way, corporate versus independent natural, you'll feel it. You just, like, right now, I mean, I see it so clearly every day. I can walk through a store and just go, yeah, nope. Yeah.
So I
And
was just thinking how most of the stuff I buy doesn't isn't in the store because I do like I remember being absolutely heartbroken when Bragg's sold out. And the quality of, like, the apple cider vinegar, like, it became
Yeah.
it from this cloudy, beautiful goodness to, like, this crystal clear crap, and I was just like, "Man." Or, like, when Pure Encapsulation sold out, and, like, I was just like, "Now I can't buy from them anymore because 'cause I'm not gonna be able to trust the quality."
Yeah.
They don't have to tell us when they change from a bioavailable nutrient to a man-made version,
Yeah.
and so, and then they're not third party tested anymore. So we can't verify that what they're saying is in there is actually in there anymore. And it's just like, I'm in the same boat. Like, the more independent you can go, the better it is. Yes, obviously people need to pay the bills. They have to keep a roof over their house, but their goal is to share, not to just
Yeah.
take as much money from you as possible and give you crap in return.
I did a every year kind of set some sort of like personal like goal for myself that I want to do. And several years back, I think it was my 2016 goal, was I didn't want to buy food from retail anymore. I'm talking like meat, produce, dairy. I don't buy that from retail at all anymore. And I one, I was surprised how easy it was to do that. Two, in the long run, it's so much cheaper to do it that way. I think there's a whole marketing scheme based on getting more out of people over a long period of time by charging them. They think, I don't know. I'll buy a whole cow, and yes, at that time it's you know $1,500, but that feeds my family for a year.
An entire
Yeah,
year. Yeah.
yeah,
And some
and so
friends.
yeah, yeah. But the really beautiful thing is it made me appreciate and like even buying soaps and stuff like that. When you buy soaps from people who are making it, one, you've just gained the knowledge of knowing, okay, I know where my stuff's coming from. I know and it feels so much better to go, I know where these eggs came from, or I know where this potato came from. But the best thing of all is when I started doing that, I now have so many amazing relationships. Like I just don't like most people go to the store and they just buy some eggs. Well, like I haven't just bought eggs in years. I interact with my dear friends Serena and Mitch, and they have a wonderful little girl, named Camille, and they have this beautiful farm that's 10 miles from my house, and it's like I don't just buy eggs. Like those people are friends, and I have them in my life, and that you see what I'm saying? As is like
Yeah.
you could just go to the store and buy eggs, or
You can
you
get to
could
know the farmer.
you could get the yeah, and those relationships are life changing, and it almost like forces you to have more healthy relationships, literally healthy relationships, because even if you live in a hugely metropolitan, super condensed area, it's not that hard it really isn't. There
No.
are people doing eggs everywhere. There are people growing things everywhere. There's even meat isn't even that hard to find if you go looking for it. And I'm telling you, like even if I've had people, my wife, I don't consume dairy, but my wife has raw dairy, and
Mhm.
in some states, raw dairy is like selling heroin. Like the people, what I mean. I mean, like you can get in just as much trouble, buying and selling raw dairy as you can, buy. It's like you're doing a drug deal or something, and why is that? And why would that be? It's just like in some states you can go to jail for collecting rainwater.
Right. Oh,
Like,
yeah.
well, why would that be? Gee, who would not want you? The mere fact that there's even a paywall between humans and water. Think about that one. Like falls from the sky, springs from the ground. Why is there a paywall? Anywhere on Earth, why is there a paywall between humans and water? You know,
Yeah.
what other living species can you cite that puts a paywall between themselves and the number one substance they need to survive? That right there should open up some eyes and some ears as to why that's even the case. But no, if you can go to the source and learn the source, especially in these times we're living in, I don't think it is too uh, you know whack jobbery to think that in the next in the foreseeable future, we might not all have the ability to just run down to the store and buy something anytime we want to.
Mhm.
I mean, look at how people just lost their minds when, there wasn't toilet paper. I mean, my gosh, it was, front page news, and it's like, what? How about when you're not going to be able to find chicken? You
Right.
know, and I think we could, I know you don't have hours upon hours, but we could talk for the next hour about just the intentional, commercial moves that are being made as we speak, that are even making mainstream headlines, making it hard for people to get, the egg shortage isn't because there's a shortage of eggs. It has so many facets to it, to where, like, I mean, eggs are being intentionally made expensive and hard to get
Yep.
because it's
It's against
God
the
for,
agenda right now.
yeah, God forbid anybody be self-sufficient and be able to provide for themselves without any, corporate third party assistance. And
Yeah.
and but anyways, I really encourage everybody to just start with something as simple as eggs and just go, look, I don't want to buy these from stores anymore. I'm gonna find my egg people, and I guarantee you're gonna make beautiful relationships, and it won't just be buying eggs anymore. You're gonna have like a meaningful, purposeful, connection that's probably going to serve you well if things go sideways.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. This
Absolutely.
was so fun. Like, I enjoyed this conversation very much. I would love to have you back,
Oh man,
and we can just kind of take people on a whole other level. I think that would be incredible because there's just so much to talk about. And, you know, I, I'm very opinionated about things. And I tend to kind of keep those opinions to myself, but I do think that there's so much that we can learn. And when there's somebody who's just as passionate and able to talk about it in a really eloquent way, it just gets me really excited because there is
oh,
so much out there that you need to know, and you're going to learn on this journey to holistic health, to true, vibrant, healthy living. And there's so many layers to it. And to have a place to start and somebody, conversations to listen to and ideas on where to begin, it's just really helpful because you're going to find out everything that we know, and we can just talk about for hours. But so I would love to have you back. And I'm just
oh,
so,
would love to.
yeah, and I just appreciate everything that you shared today. I know it's going to be incredibly helpful for people.
Well, cool. And hey, if your listeners are interested, if they go to theredpillrevolution.com/guide, put together this, it's the anti-dependency guide. And it's chock full. It's easy to read. There's no sales pitches in there. You don't have to buy anything. Just throw in an email, and it's a free download. But I mean, it touches on 10 key aspects of life that I think anybody can do to take, one, take power into their own hands, stop giving it away, take power into their own hands, and just make healthier decisions. I mean, it touches on light, water, EMF, electrosmog, grounding, healthcare, sourcing, physical goods versus digital, media, commercial versus private, and it ends with consent. And I think consent is a big one, and it goes back to, I think if people were empowered a bit more, with knowing that it's totally okay to ask questions, it's totally okay to say no. It's totally, when somebody especially when someone in a white coat with letters after their name is telling you something, it's totally okay to go, look, all they are is just someone who took some classes. I mean, I don't mean to belittle that, but like that's at the end of the day, they're just another human being that went to a school and took some classes. It doesn't necessarily make them any smarter or any more knowledgeable than you might be, and we all know our bodies better than anybody else. And if you're feeling something and something is wrong, or something is right, don't be manipulated or intimidated by that white coat or those letters. You can say no, just like there's, you know, mechanics are a dime a dozen. And I love me some mechanics. I love the good ones, medical personnel are a dime a dozen. And there are some good ones out there too, but the good ones, you'll know when you're in their presence.
The good ones will answer the questions.
Yeah, they'll
and
answer the
listen
questions.
and listen to your questions and validate your questions and validate your experience.
And you won't feel like you're talking to some person with an ego. That, like you say, I mean, when someone's loving and open and willing to have a conversation with you versus being all smug and holier than thou, and how dare you question my education, and just, I don't know, it'll resonate. But yeah, just like I said, go to the redpillrevolution.com/guide, download that guide, and I hope there's something in there that helps, even if it helps one other person go, oh yeah, I can do that, or oh yeah, I didn't even know that was something I could do, then it's a win-win.
Awesome. And I'll make sure to put the links in the show notes for you guys. And, be sure to leave a review if you thought this was great, and make sure you let John know how much you enjoyed this episode. Thank you again for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you found this episode helpful, would you do me a favor and help others find it by leaving a review, sharing a screenshot on social media, or sharing the link with a friend? By you sharing what you've learned, others are able to find this podcast and join our community. Be sure to check out my website, www.roadtolivingwhole.com, for over 160 delicious recipes, a variety of meal plans, and a blog packed full of even more healthy living tips. If you'd like to learn more about how to work with me as your coach, you can schedule a free consult through www.roadtolivingwhole.com/health-coaching/. Until next time, friend. Bye.